Story 1. I've been living in this quiet suburban neighborhood for about 3 years now. When I first moved in, I was going through a really tough time. My mom had just passed away from cancer, and I'd moved across the country to start fresh after losing my job during company layoffs. The house I bought was small but perfect for me, with a nice backyard that backed up to a little wooded area. About 6 months after moving in, this beautiful orange tabby cat started showing up in my yard. He was clearly someone's pet, well-fed, friendly, and had this gorgeous thick coat. I started leaving out some food and water for him, and he began visiting more regularly. I put up flyers around the neighborhood asking if anyone was missing a cat, but no one claimed him. After a few weeks of no responses, I took him to the vet to check for a microchip. Sure enough, he had one, but when they called the number, it was disconnected. The vet suggested I keep caring for him and try to find his family, but if no one came forward after a reasonable time, I could consider him mine. I named him Rusty, and he became my best friend. He was an indoor-outdoor cat who loved to explore, but always came home to me. He helped me through some really dark days after losing my mom. Having him curl up on my lap in the evenings made the house feel less empty. About a year ago, a new neighbor moved in next door. She seemed nice enough at first, a woman in her 50s who kept to herself mostly. But I started noticing she would stare at Rusty whenever he was outside, and she'd try to call him over to her yard. The real problem started about 3 months ago. I came home from work one day and couldn't find Rusty anywhere. I called and searched all his usual spots, but nothing. As I was walking around my backyard calling his name, I heard meowing coming from my neighbor's house. I knocked on her door, and when she answered, I could clearly hear Rusty crying inside. Hi, I think my cat might have gotten into your house somehow. I can hear him meowing. Karen: oh, that's not your cat. That's my cat. He chose to come live with me. I'm sorry, but that's definitely my cat Rusty. He's been living with me for over 2 years. Can I please have him back? Karen: no, you're mistaken. This cat came to me because he likes me better. He's happier here. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I could see Rusty through her window, and he was clearly trying to get out. Ma'am, I have vet records and photos going back years. That's my cat. Please let me have him back. Karen: I don't care what you think you have. This cat chose me. He's mine now. She slammed the door in my face. I stood there in shock for a moment, then knocked again. No answer. I called the police non-emergency line, and they said it was a civil matter and I'd need to prove ownership. The next morning, I gathered all of Rusty's vet records, his microchip information, and dozens of photos of us together. I went back to Karen's house with everything. I have all the documentation proving he's my cat. Here's his microchip information and vet records going back over 2 years. Karen: I don't care about your fake papers. This cat loves me and wants to stay with me. You probably abused him. That's why he ran away. He didn't run away. He's an outdoor cat who likes to explore, and I've never hurt him in any way. Karen: well, he's not going anywhere. He's locked safely inside where he belongs. You can't just steal someone's pet. Karen: I'm not stealing anything. He came to me willingly. Finders keepers. I was furious but tried to stay calm. I told her I was calling the police, and she just laughed and went back inside. When the officers arrived, I showed them all my documentation. They knocked on Karen's door, and she reluctantly let them in to see the cat. Even they could hear Rusty meowing loudly and scratching at the door trying to get out. Officer: ma'am, this gentleman has provided extensive documentation proving this is his cat. We're going to need you to return the animal. Karen: that's not his cat. This cat chose me. He's happier with me. Officer: do you have any documentation showing this is your cat? Vet records, microchip registration, anything? Karen: I don't need papers. The cat chose me. That's all the proof I need. The officers asked if I had the microchip information with me, and I showed them the paperwork from when I first found Rusty. They had a scanner in their car and checked his chip right there. Officer, ma'am, this microchip is registered to him. This is definitely his cat. Karen's face turned bright red. She started yelling about how unfair it was and how the cat obviously preferred her house. Karen, this is ridiculous. The cat came to me. He likes my food better. He chose me. Officer, ma'am, you need to return this animal immediately, or we'll have to charge you with theft. Karen, theft. You can't steal something that chooses to be with you. Officer, actually, pets are considered property under the law. Taking someone's pet without permission is theft, regardless of where the animal goes. She finally, grudgingly, brought Rusty out. The moment he saw me, he ran straight to me, purring and rubbing against my legs. It was obvious who he belonged to. Karen, fine, take your stupid cat. But don't come crying to me when he runs away again, because he's not happy with you. I thanked the officers and took Rusty home. He spent the rest of the day following me around the house, like he was making sure I wasn't going anywhere. But Karen wasn't done. Over the next few weeks, she kept trying to lure Rusty to her yard with food and treats. She even had the audacity to complain to other neighbors that I was keeping a cat prisoner who wanted to live with her. The final straw came when I caught her trying to cut a hole in our shared fence, claiming she was making it easier for the cat to visit her. I called the police again, and this time they gave her a formal warning about harassment and property damage. She finally moved out about a month later. I heard from another neighbor that she was facing other legal issues related to trying to claim ownership of things that weren't hers. Rusty and I are doing great now. He still loves spending time outside, but he always comes home to me. Sometimes I catch him staring at the fence where Karen used to live, and I swear he looks relieved that she's gone. I know I am. Story 2. I've been working at this mid-sized insurance company for about 3 years now. Started right after college when I desperately needed any job that offered decent benefits. The pay isn't amazing, but it covers my student loans and rent. Plus, I get good health insurance. I work in the claims processing department, basically reviewing paperwork all day and entering data into our system. I picked up smoking about a year into the job. I know, terrible habit. But the stress of dealing with angry customers and endless paperwork got to me. Most of my coworkers smoke too, and we all take our breaks together in the designated smoking area behind the building. Our employee handbook clearly states we get 2 15-minute breaks plus a 30-minute lunch. I usually take one smoke break mid-morning and another mid-afternoon, staying within my allotted time. Everything was fine until Karen got hired 6 months ago. She joined our department as a senior claims processor, same level as me, but she acted like she was everyone's supervisor from day one. Karen made it clear she disapproved of smoking and would make these exaggerated coughing sounds whenever someone came back from a smoke break. The real problem started about 2 months ago. I was heading out for my usual morning break when Karen stopped me. Karen, where are you going? Me, just taking my break. Karen, again, you just got here an hour ago. Me, it's my 15-minute break. I'm allowed 2 per day. Karen, well, I think you're taking advantage. I'm going to start keeping track. I laughed it off because honestly, who does that? But Karen wasn't joking. The next day, she had a little notebook and actually started timing me. She'd write down when I left and when I came back. At first, I thought she was just trying to make a point and would get bored. But it got worse. Karen started timing other people too. She'd sit at her desk with this smug look, watching everyone like a hawk. She even started timing people's bathroom breaks. My coworker from the next cubicle came up to me during lunch. Coworker, this is getting ridiculous. She timed me going to the bathroom yesterday and told me I was gone for 12 minutes. Me, she's not even a manager. Why is she doing this? Coworker, I heard she applied for the team lead position that's opening up. Maybe she thinks this will impress the bosses. That made sense. Our current team leader was transferring to another department. and management was looking for someone to promote from within. Karen had been dropping hints about her leadership qualities and dedication to efficiency. Things escalated when Karen started approaching our actual supervisor with her little notebook. She'd march into his office and present her findings like she was conducting some important investigation. Then last week, I got called into human resources. The HR representative, a nice woman who'd always been fair with everyone, looked uncomfortable. HR rep, we've received some concerns about your break times. Can you walk me through your typical schedule? Me, I take 2 15-minute breaks, just like the handbook says. One around 10 and one around 3. HR rep, the complaint suggests you're taking longer breaks and more frequently than policy allows. I was confused because I knew I wasn't breaking any rules. I asked to see the complaint. HR rep, someone has been documenting that you take 20 to 30-minute breaks, sometimes 3 or 4 times per day. Me, that's not true. I have my phone with me. I can show you timestamps of when I text people during breaks. The HR rep looked at the logs Karen had submitted. Something didn't add up. The times Karen recorded didn't match the electronic badge swipes we use to enter and exit the building. HR rep, let me look into this further. In the meantime, just continue following normal break policy. Apparently, the HR department decided to do their own investigation. They pulled security camera footage and electronic badge records. Turns out, Karen had been completely falsifying her logs. She was writing down fake times and making up violations that never happened. But here's the best part: while Karen was so busy timing everyone else, the cameras caught her taking multiple long breaks herself. She was spending 20 to 30 minutes in her car several times a day, way beyond what company policy allowed. Yesterday, Karen got called into HR. She came back to her desk looking pale and shaken. Within an hour, our supervisor sent out an email announcing that the team lead position had been filled by someone from another department, definitely not Karen. Today, I overheard Karen on a phone call that sounded personal. Karen? No, Mom, I didn't get the promotion. There were some complications with my performance review. I found out from someone in HR that Karen received a formal written warning for harassment and falsifying company documents. She's on thin ice now, and everyone knows it. The funniest part? She still sits at her desk with that little notebook, but now she just stares at it. Nobody takes her seriously anymore, and she knows we all know what she did. I'm still taking my 2 15-minute breaks, right on schedule. Sometimes I wave at the security camera on my way out, just because I can. Story 3. I work part-time at the local movie theater to help pay for college. Been there for about 2 years now, and I've seen my fair share of difficult customers. But nothing prepared me for what happened last Saturday evening. I'm usually assigned to concessions, but that night our manager asked me to help with crowd control during the busy weekend rush. We had a packed house for the new superhero movie that everyone was talking about. The theater was buzzing with excitement, especially from the younger crowd. I was doing my usual rounds, making sure everything was running smoothly, when I noticed a middle-aged woman sitting alone in the middle section. She had this stern expression on her face and kept looking around disapprovingly at the other moviegoers. Red flag number 1, but I didn't think much of it at first. The movie was about to start, and the trailers were rolling. There was a group of teenagers sitting a few rows behind her, maybe 5 or 6 kids, probably around 15 or 16 years old. They were clearly excited to be there, sharing some popcorn and quietly chatting about the upcoming previews. Nothing out of the ordinary for a Saturday night showing. During one of the comedy movie trailers, something funny happened on screen and the teenagers started giggling. It wasn't loud or disruptive at all. Just normal teenage laughter that you'd expect during a funny trailer. But apparently, this woman had other ideas about acceptable theater behavior. She whipped around in her seat and glared at them. Karen, excuse me. Some of us are trying to watch. The teenagers looked confused. One of them, who seemed to be the oldest, responded politely. Teen, sorry, We didn't know we were being too loud. Karen, well you are. This isn't your living room. I started walking over, thinking I might need to mediate, but I wanted to see how it played out first. The teenagers went quiet and turned back to the screen. Problem solved, right? Wrong. Not even 2 minutes later, another trailer came on, and one of the teens made a quiet comment to his friend about recognizing an actor. It was barely above a whisper, but Karen wasn't having it. She stood up, turned around completely, and started jabbing her finger in their direction. Karen, I told you to be quiet. Where are your parents? You kids have no respect. Now other people in the theater were starting to look. The teenagers looked embarrassed and confused. The oldest one tried to apologize again. Teen, look, we're really sorry. We'll keep it down. Karen, you shouldn't be making any noise at all. I paid good money for these tickets. At this point, I knew I needed to step in before things escalated further. I walked over and tried to speak quietly to avoid disturbing other customers. Me, is everything okay here? Karen, no, everything is not okay. These kids are ruining the movie experience for everyone. They won't stop talking. I looked at the teenagers, who all seemed genuinely sorry and confused. Me, I'll make sure they keep the noise down. Let's all just try to enjoy the movie. I thought that would be the end of it. I was so wrong. The main movie started, and for about 10 minutes, everything was quiet. Then, during an action scene, one of the teens quietly said, "Whoa," under his breath. It was barely audible over the movie's sound effects. That's when Karen completely lost it. She grabbed her large popcorn bucket, stood up, and hurled it directly at the teenagers. Popcorn went everywhere, hitting not just them but several other customers in nearby seats. Karen, that's it. I've had enough of you brats. The whole theater turned to look. People were covered in popcorn, and the teenagers were just sitting there in shock. Karen wasn't done though. Karen, manager, I want the manager right now. These kids need to be thrown out immediately. I radioed for my manager while trying to calm the situation. Other customers started complaining, but not about the teenagers. Customer 1, lady, what is wrong with you? Customer 2, they weren't even being that loud. Karen, don't you dare take their side. I'm a paying customer and I demand respect. My manager arrived within minutes. He's this really calm guy in his 40s who's been running theaters for years. He assessed the situation quickly. Manager, ma'am, I need you to lower your voice and tell me what happened. Karen, these teenagers have been disrupting the movie since it started. I want them removed immediately. I threw my popcorn because they wouldn't listen. The manager looked around at the mess, then at the teenagers who were still sitting quietly, looking mortified. Manager, and you threw food at other customers? Karen, they deserved it. They were being disrespectful. Several other customers started speaking up. Customer 1, those kids weren't doing anything wrong. Customer 2, she's the one who's been causing problems. Customer 3, I want my money back because of her. The manager listened to everyone, then made his decision. Manager, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. You've disturbed other customers and thrown food in our theater. Karen's face turned red. Karen, you're kicking me out. What about them? Manager, they haven't done anything wrong. You, however, have assaulted other customers with projectile food and created a disturbance. Karen, this is ridiculous. I want corporate's number. I'm calling the police. Manager, that's your right, but you still need to leave the premises immediately. As security escorted Karen out, she was still screaming about how unfair it was and threatening to sue everyone. The manager offered the teenagers and affected customers free movie passes for the inconvenience. But here's the best part. About an hour later, Karen actually did call the police. They showed up and took statements from several witnesses, including me. After hearing everyone's side of the story, the officer told Karen that she could potentially be charged with assault for throwing the popcorn and disturbing the peace. The manager also banned her from all locations of our theater chain. Apparently, this wasn't her first incident at other locations either. The teenagers, They stayed for the rest of the movie and were perfect angels. They even helped clean up the popcorn mess without being asked. As they were leaving, one of them stopped by to thank us for handling the situation fairly. "Teen, thanks for sticking up for us. We really weren't trying to cause trouble." "Me, you didn't cause any trouble. Some people just can't handle sharing public spaces." Karen tried calling corporate to complain, but with multiple witness statements, security footage, and her history of complaints at other locations, they upheld the ban. The crazy part? She showed up the next weekend trying to buy tickets like nothing happened. The look on her face when the staff member recognized her and told her about the ban was priceless. She stormed out muttering about how she was going to find a better theater chain. Good luck with that, Karen. Most of us in the industry talk to each other about problem customers. Those teenagers became regulars after that, and they're always polite and respectful. Sometimes the system actually works the way it's supposed to. Story 4. I've been working as a train conductor for the city transit system for about 3 years now. It's not the most glamorous job, but it pays the bills and gives me decent benefits. When the health department brought back mask mandates on public transportation last month due to the new variant surge, I knew we were in for some difficult situations. Most passengers comply without issue, but there's always that one person who thinks the rules don't apply to them. This particular morning started like any other. I just finished my coffee and was doing my routine safety checks before the 7:30 a.m. departure. The train was packed with the usual crowd of commuters heading downtown for work. Everyone seemed tired and just wanted to get to their destinations without any drama. That's when she got on at the third stop. I noticed her immediately because she was the only person on the entire car without a mask. She had this smug look on her face, like she was daring someone to say something. She pushed past several passengers and plopped down in a seat near the front, right where I could see her clearly. I walked over and politely tapped her on the shoulder. "Excuse me, ma'am, I need to ask you to put on a face mask. It's required on all public transportation." "Karen, I don't have to wear anything. This is America, and you can't make me. I understand you might not agree with the policy, but it's currently a city health department requirement. I have extra masks if you need one." I pulled out a disposable mask from my supply pouch and held it out to her. "Karen, keep your government control devices away from me. I know my rights." The other passengers were starting to stare. Some looked annoyed, others seemed uncomfortable. An elderly man sitting across from her actually moved to a different seat. "Ma'am, if you choose not to wear a mask, I'll have to ask you to exit at the next station. These rules are in place to protect everyone's health." "Karen, you little power-hungry nobody. I paid for my ticket just like everyone else. You can't kick me off for breathing." She said this loud enough that half the car could hear her. I could feel my face getting red, but I kept my voice calm and professional. "I'm going to radio ahead to security. You'll need to either comply with the mask requirement or leave the train at the next stop. Karen, go ahead and call your little security friends. See if I care." I stepped away and radioed ahead to Central Station, which was our next stop. I explained the situation and requested transit police assistance. The dispatcher confirmed they'd have officers waiting on the platform. As we approached Central Station, I made an announcement over the intercom. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching Central Station. Please have your tickets ready and remember that masks are required at all times on board." Karen stood up and looked directly at me with this evil grin. "Karen, you think you've won, don't you?" Then she did something that made my blood boil. She walked right up to me, took a deep breath, and let out the most exaggerated fake cough I'd ever heard, spraying saliva in my direction and on my uniform. "Karen, there, you can't make me do anything." The entire car went silent. Even the regular commuters who usually kept to themselves were staring in shock. A woman with a baby quickly moved to the far end of the car. The train pulled into the station, and I could see 3 transit police officers waiting on the platform through the window. As soon as the doors opened, I pointed Karen out to them. "Officer, ma'am, we need you to step off the train." "Karen, this is harassment. I'm being discriminated against for my medical condition." "Officer, what medical condition prevents you from wearing a mask?" "Karen, I don't have to tell you that. It's private medical information." "Officer, ma'am, please step off the train now, or we'll have to escort you off." "Karen, fine, but I'm calling my lawyer. You'll all be sorry." She stormed off the train, still ranting about her rights. One of the officers stayed with her, while the other two came back to talk to me. "Officer, did she cough on you deliberately?" Me. "Yes, right in front of all these passengers. It was completely intentional." "Officer, we'll need you to file a report." With the current health emergency orders, deliberately gouging on someone can be charged as public endangerment. Several passengers who witnessed the incident gave their contact information to serve as witnesses. The elderly gentleman who had moved seats earlier even approached me. "Passenger, son, I've been riding this train for 20 years, and I've never seen behavior like that. You handled it perfectly." About 2 hours later, my supervisor called to tell me that Karen had been issued a citation for public endangerment, which carried a fine of $500. The transit police also informed her that she was banned from the city transit system for 6 months. The best part came 3 days later when my supervisor showed me a copy of the letter Karen had sent to the transit authority, demanding my termination and threatening to sue. The legal department's response was basically a polite version of "good luck with that," explaining that I had followed all protocols correctly and that her behavior constituted a misdemeanor under current health emergency laws. I still see some of those passengers from that morning on my regular route. A few have even thanked me for standing my ground. The elderly gentleman always waves when he gets on. It's amazing how some people think being loud and obnoxious will get them what they want. But sometimes it just gets them a hefty fine and a 6-month ban from public transportation. Story 5. I moved into Maple Ridge 3 years ago when my husband got transferred for work. We picked this neighborhood specifically because it was family-friendly with wide sidewalks and a quiet cul-de-sac perfect for our 2-year-old daughter to play safely. The homeowners association seemed reasonable at first, just basic stuff about keeping lawns neat and not parking boats in driveways. My daughter had just turned 3 when she got her first tricycle for her birthday. It was pink with streamers on the handlebars and a little bell she loved to ring constantly. Every evening after dinner, I'd take her outside and she'd pedal around our cul-de-sac while I walked behind her. The other parents in the neighborhood would wave and smile as she went by, ringing her bell and giggling. That's when Karen showed up. Karen had been the Homeowners Association president for 8 years and took her job very seriously. Too seriously. She lived in the biggest house at the end of our street and had made it clear from day one that she considered herself the neighborhood's unofficial mayor. She was the type who would measure your grass height with a ruler and send violation notices if it was a 1/4 inch too long. The first incident happened on a Tuesday evening. My daughter was riding her tricycle in front of our house when Karen marched over, her clipboard in hand like always. "Karen, excuse me, but that thing needs to go." Me, "I'm sorry, what thing?" "Karen, that wheeled contraption your child is operating. It's not appropriate for our community standards." I looked around confused. My 3-year-old was literally just riding a tricycle on the sidewalk in front of our own house. Me, "It's just a tricycle. She's playing in front of our home." "Karen, according to the Homeowners Association guidelines, all vehicles must have proper licensing and insurance. This is a family neighborhood, not a racetrack." Me, "She's 3 years old on a tricycle." "Karen, age doesn't matter. Rules are rules. I'm documenting this violation." She actually took a photo of my toddler on her tricycle and wrote something on her clipboard before storming off. I thought she was just having a bad day and figured that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next week, I got an official letter from the Homeowners Association stating that recreational vehicles under 4 wheels were being reviewed for potential safety violations and aesthetic concerns. The letter was signed by Karen and demanded that all such vehicles be removed from common areas immediately pending review. I called the Homeowners Association office to clarify what this meant. Hi, I got this letter about recreational vehicles, but I think there's been a mistake. It's about my daughter's tricycle. Office worker: yes, we've received multiple complaints about wheeled toys disrupting the peaceful nature of the community. Multiple complaints? About a 3-year-old's tricycle? Office worker: the complaint states that vehicles under 4 wheels create safety hazards and detract from property values. I realized Karen had somehow convinced the office staff that a toddler's toy was a legitimate threat to the neighborhood. But I wasn't going to let her bully my family, so I decided to research the actual Homeowners Association rules. After reading through the entire covenant document, I found exactly what I expected: absolutely nothing about tricycles, bicycles, or any children's toys being prohibited. The vehicle rules clearly applied to cars, motorcycles, and boats, not playground equipment. Armed with this information, I started talking to other parents in the neighborhood. Turns out, Karen had been harassing several families about their kids' bikes and scooters too. She'd been telling people it was association policy when it was really just her personal crusade. The situation escalated the following weekend during our neighborhood's monthly block party. All the kids were out playing with their various wheeled toys when Karen showed up with what looked like an official citation book. She marched straight up to my daughter, who was happily pedaling her tricycle near the playground, and started yelling. "Karen, stop right there. I told your mother these death traps aren't allowed." My 3-year-old stopped pedaling and started crying. Karen actually stepped in front of the tricycle to block her path. "Karen, vehicles under 4 wheels are a danger to this community. Someone could get seriously hurt." Other parents started gathering around as my daughter sobbed, not understanding why this angry woman was screaming at her. Get away from my child right now." "Karen, I'm enforcing community standards. This is exactly the kind of reckless behavior that brings down property values." Neighbor dad: "Lady, she's 3 years old." Karen: "Age is irrelevant. Rules apply to everyone equally." That's when she made her biggest mistake. She grabbed the handlebars of my daughter's tricycle and tried to confiscate it. Do not touch my child or her toy." Karen: "I'm confiscating this hazardous equipment until the board can vote on proper regulations." The entire block party had stopped to watch this middle-aged woman trying to steal a toddler's tricycle while the child cried. Several people were recording on their phones. Neighbor mom: "This is insane. It's a kid's toy." Karen: "You people don't understand the liability issues. What if someone trips over these things? What if property values drop because buyers think this is some kind of daycare facility?" She was red-faced and screaming about property values while my 3-year-old sobbed behind me. That's when I'd had enough. Let go of the tricycle now, or I'm calling the police." Karen: "You can't threaten me. I'm the Homeowners Association president. And I'm a parent protecting my child from someone who's clearly lost their mind." I pulled out my phone and started dialing. Karen finally let go of the tricycle, but continued her rant about safety hazards and aesthetic violations. By Monday morning, I had compiled everything: photos of Karen harassing children, recordings from other parents, and most importantly, the actual Homeowners Association bylaws that contain 0 restrictions on children's toys. I submitted a formal complaint to the Homeowners Association board about Karen's harassment and abuse of authority. Attached were statements from 6 different families describing similar incidents, along with video footage of her trying to confiscate my daughter's tricycle while screaming at a crying 3-year-old. The emergency board meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday. Karen showed up with a binder full of what she called evidence, basically just photos of kids playing with their toys, and some printed articles about bicycle accidents from random websites. She spent 20 minutes presenting her case for why tricycles were destroying the neighborhood's character and property values. She had charts and graphs about vehicular density in residential areas and kept referring to children's toys as unregulated transportation devices. When it was my turn to speak, I simply read the relevant section of the Homeowners Association covenants out loud, which made no mention of restrictions on children's playground equipment. Then I showed the board the video of Karen screaming at my toddler and trying to steal her tricycle. Board member, so you're telling us you want to ban children from riding tricycles in front of their own homes? Karen, I'm advocating for community standards and safety protocols. Board member, by yelling at 3-year-olds? Karen, age doesn't exempt anyone from following proper procedures. The board members looked at each other with expressions that clearly said they thought Karen had completely lost it. After a brief private discussion, the board chairman announced their decision. Chairman, the board finds no basis for restricting children's toys in any homeowners association documentation. Furthermore, the harassment of residents and their children is completely unacceptable behavior for any board member. Karen, this is a mistake. You'll regret this when property values plummet. Chairman, Karen, effective immediately. Your homeowners association privileges are suspended pending a full review of your conduct. You're also required to send written apologies to every family you've harassed. Karen, you can't do this to me. I've been president for 8 years. Chairman, we can and we are. This meeting is adjourned. Karen stormed out muttering about lawsuits and property values, while the rest of us tried not to laugh. The next day, she had to send formal apology letters to 6 different families for what the board called inappropriate enforcement actions and harassment of minor children. My daughter still rides her tricycle every evening, ringing her bell and giggling as she pedals around our peaceful cul-de-sac. Karen stays inside her house now and pretends not to see us when we wave. The neighborhood is much quieter without her constant complaints about imaginary violations. Sometimes I catch her peeking through her curtains when the kids are playing outside, probably taking notes about some new violation she's discovered. But without any homeowners association authority, she's just another neighbor watching children play like normal human beings do. The best part? Last month, the new homeowners association president bought her grandson a bright red tricycle for his birthday. He rides it right past Karen's house every day.